We are back, and so are the power rankings. We're going to be able to finally judge these teams based off what they've done on the field instead of that preseason guessing game that we had with the last power rankings. I don't want to waste any of your time. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Starting off at number 30, we had the Colorado Rockies finishing at a whopping 5-25 in the course of April. Not a great month from them. They couldn't score runs, couldn't pitch well. None of the players you saw break out last year kind of kept that same momentum. They really just haven't done a lot of good this year. You look at maybe a Jordan Beck as like a positive sign, but aside from that, really nothing great going on here. They haven't been playing good baseball, and they really do look like the worst team in baseball, which is saying something considering the White Sox exist. But at 29, we do have the Chicago White Sox, and they've been playing bad baseball. They're only 2 games better than the Colorado Rockies, but you could very easily make the argument that they should be up there with like the likes of the Marlins, Pirates. They should be in that conversation a lot closer than maybe you would have guessed coming into the season. Yes, they're playing bad baseball, but for the Chicago White Sox, it's all right for what we expected coming in. We're still going to have them here at 29. At number 28, we had the Los Angeles Angels, who coming into the year, there was some hope. They finally brought in some pitching and Yusei Kikuchi. You expected Mike Trout to be back and healthy. That's all hit the fan. Kikuchi isn't pitching the greatest. Mike Trout's hurt. They've won 6 of their last 20 games, lost 5 in a row. Not a team on the rise at the moment. They finished the month at 12-17. Not looking great so far. The Angels, I have them down here at 28. At number 27, I have the Pittsburgh Pirates, who started the year playing abysmal baseball. As of late, they've been playing a little bit better, but then their competition has scaled up considerably in that time. So it's kind of like they've still continued the same amount of losses. They're currently sitting at 12-19. Haven't been doing great in terms of the run differential. Not a lot of positive signs. They will get a little bit healthier here coming next month, but still not a lot of great signs coming out of Pittsburgh. At number 26, we had the Miami Marlins, who started the year pretty decent. They were around 500, and then their schedule got really tough, and they've lost their last 5 games. They've won only 7 of their last 20 games. Just not a team going in the right direction. They did start the year decent, but they do seem to be a team trending downwards at the moment. But for the start of their season, I went ahead and put them here at number 26. And then at number 25, it's a really disappointing team. It's my furthest dropper of the video in the Baltimore Orioles, losing 18 spots. It's been a bad year for Baltimore so far. They really seem to have drugged this bad curse that they had in the offseason into the regular season. The pitching has looked bad. Their team hasn't looked great. And it's just been a terrible year for them so far. Team has one of the worst run differentials in baseball, just better than the Marlins, but they have had a pretty tough schedule up to this point, so I'm not going to dog them too much, but not a great year for the Orioles so far. So I'm going to have them here at 25. We're hoping to see them bounce back. Another team that kind of started the year better than they have been finishing it is the Toronto Blue Jays, who are coming in here at number 24, losing 2 spots. They have only won 2 of their last 10 games, and that's even with them winning their most recent. They haven't been outscoring people by any means. The offense has not been as good as you would hope. Pitching has been, fine, but not good. Just been a pretty bad year for the Toronto Blue Jays, especially considering you wanted to see them bounce back, giving Vladimir Guerrero Jr. that money. You're hoping that that would bring some good vibes, but it's kind of seemed like the vibes have run out a little bit for the Toronto Blue Jays. And then at number 23, we have another team that finished the month very poorly whenever you consider where they started, and that's going to be the Washington Nationals, losing their last 3 games, having one of the worst run differentials in baseball, one of the worst schedules to this point, so you would expect them to be a little bit lower if they keep playing the way they are. They've only won 8 out of their last 20. Just not a team that's really seeming to be on the rise. They have this weird thing where they actually play better against teams that are above 500. I'm not sure what's going on there, but it's just a team you were hoping to see the next step from, but they haven't really showed it so far this year. For the Minnesota Twins, this is a team that feels like they're starting to figure it out a little bit. They started the year very poorly, but they have been doing better as of late. 10 out of their last 20 have been wins, 6 out of their last 10 have been wins. They've been doing better. Byron Buxton been crushing it this year, but if you can get other names involved, Carlos Correa, if he can figure it out offensively, you get Royce Lewis back, maybe Eduardo Julian starts to kick in. You get some of these names to chip in, and all of a sudden this team starts to look very scary. The pitching has been decent, especially the starters, Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez doing their thing. But there are pieces here, but you just need to see it come together a little bit before you can bump them up this list. And then at number 21, we have the St. Louis Cardinals, who have been playing pretty much right down the fairway sort of baseball this year. They haven't gone too far bad, haven't gone too far great. They're just pretty middle of the pack. They've won, 5 of their last 10, 9 of their last 20. They have a plus run differential. They've actually had a pretty decently tough schedule up to this point. Matthew Liberatore's been surprisingly good this year. Brendan Donovan's been absolutely on fire to start the year. Victor Scott's actually giving you some offensive production. Lars Nootbaar looks good. They've just done a lot of good things so far this year. Not much to knock, not much to really get that excited about because they're not a team with the superstars that really push them to the next level, but they're just a solid team here at number 21. Not much to say. At number 20, we have the Tampa Bay Rays, who are another team that's middle of the pack, but they've done it in a lot different way than you would expect. Obviously, they're great at manufacturing pitching. Drew Rasmussen's been great. Shane Baz, Taj Bradley, all kind of doing their thing. Pete Fairbanks, even in the pen, all doing their thing. But then you look at the offense, and it's not the usual names. It's not Brandon Louse, not Yandy Diaz like you would expect. Instead, it's Jonathan Aranda, who was a sleeper pick coming into the year, all things considered. But Cameron Meisner and Jake Mangum, not names that you were like, yep, these guys are going to be the superstars for this team, but that's what it's looking like up to this point in the year. They're looking good. They're somehow keeping pace in the AL East. It's going to be interesting to see if the superstars come to light, if the rest of the team can kind of keep up their weight. And at that point, they become a pretty scary team come down to the stretch. But for right now, we're going to have them here at number 20. And then at number 19, we had our first team with a winning record up to this point. And it's just because I really didn't know what to do with them. Yes, they have a winning record. They've had aspects that look good, but they've also not been really dominating their game. They either win a sketchy game or they get blown out. They have a minus 28 run differential. They should be, by the expected numbers, around a 13 win club, but here they sit, they're 16 and 15. And I just don't know what to do with them because they are looking good. They have pieces that look good. Luis Severino has been a great pickup so far. JP Sears has been good this year. Mason Miller's untouchable. Justin Sterner out of the pen's been great. Offensively, Tyler Soderstrom taking a big step up this year. Jacob Wilson's breaking out. Jay Langoliers looks great. They've have pieces that look really good, but they're just not quite putting it all together yet. And you need to see people like Nick Kurtz get going. You need to see JJ Bleday, Max Muncy, people like that start to hit to where they were, what you would expect maybe a little bit more for me to be convinced, but they've looked good so far. They're getting the wins. You just need to see if it's replicable over the course of a full season before I really want to push them much higher. At number 18, losing 2 spots to Texas Rangers, they were a popular pick to bounce back, find that 2023 form, and they just haven't looked convincing so far. Their pitching actually hasn't been that terrible up to this year. It's actually the offense that's just been really poor. White Langford looks great, but Josh Smith should not be arguably the second best player on this team. Corey Seager, he has missed some time, sure, but Jake Berger, Jock Peterson, where did you go? You guys were excellent hitters, had excellent peripherals, and then you come into this year and you are just terrible. Hopefully they can rekindle that form. I know they sent Jake Berger down to get some time, but hopefully they can get better because they have not been as convincing as you would like to see. So I'm going to put them here at 18 with room to go up. And then at 17, you have a team like the Braves who started the year abysmally. Absolutely terrible to start the year. But if you look at what they have done recently, they have been on fire. They've won 7 of their last 3, 12 of their last 20. They've really rebounded since that time. And I think this is where you have to look at what's going on the field as opposed to, wins and losses because the Braves, they're coming. They're coming back. We expected them to be good coming into the year, and then everyone had that shock, like, oh my God, they lost so many games to start the year, but they have been so much better as of late. They've had a decently tough schedule up to this point, and they finally have kind of got back to even on both that and the run differential. So I have big hopes for the Braves, and I think that they have rebounded nicely up into the middle of the pack here at number 17. The Royals were a weird case for me because they are above 500, but they looked really bad to start the year. They had lost a lot of games. They had a negative run differential into oblivion. That's rekindled a little bit. They've won 8 out of their last 10. They've looked a lot better as of late, and I just can't knock this team because they somehow find a way to win. Their pitching staff is great. Bobby Witt Jr. has just been solo carrying this team so far this year. Their offense, aside from him, just is so not good. It is not good. And They just keep winning games, and this is their recipe, and it worked last year, and I doubted them all of last year, and it got them into the divisional round, and I can't doubt it too much, but I am gonna drop them 6 spots and put them here at number 16. At number 15, we had the Boston Red Sox, who coming into the year, it was kind of like the Texas Rangers. You know, if the new additions come in, they do things right, the prospects come up, they will look great. You know, they were a popular pick to break out in the American League, and we just haven't seen it so far this year. They're 17 and 15, but they've been playing some pretty mediocre baseball. 5 out of their last 10, 11 out of their last 20. The new additions have looked good. Alex Bregman and Garrett Crochet have been carrying this team. Willier Breyer looked really good to start the year. Christian Campbell's looked good as well. But then the rest of the team was not really pulling their weight. Rafael Devers, obviously, storied start to the year was not great. But even guys like Trevor Story aren't overwhelmingly doing great. Jaron Duran is not looking good defensively, at least. His offense is still looking pretty solid. Tristan Casas looks like a shell of himself to start the year. Just not a great start from the team. You know, you expect them to catch fire at some point and look pretty good, but for right now, we have them at number 15. At number 14, we had the Cincinnati Reds, who have a pretty similar record. They're 16 and 15 up to this point in the year, but they have done so in a lot better fashion. They've done a lot more recently, won 12 out of their last 20, 6 out of their last 10. They have a positive run differential by over 20 runs. Now, obviously, whenever you score 20 runs in a game against the Baltimore Orioles, that does help, but you know, they have looked better, in my opinion, up to this point in the year. Plus, they're going to have a bunch of pitching prospects come up this year that you would expect would further bolster that starting rotation behind Hunter Green. And I just think they have a lot of cards coming in that will make this team even better. But for right now, I have them here at number 14. At number 13, we have the Houston Astros, who've been playing fine baseball. They're 16 and 14. You have a plus 13 run differential, but they haven't been doing anything that like wows you. They've been playing decent baseball as of late, 6 of their last 10, 12 of their last 20, but they haven't done anything that's really blown your socks off. Jeremy Pena's been playing really good baseball. Isaac Paredes been playing pretty good as well. Jose Altuve does seem to have taken a step back, at least so far this season. But Yanier Diaz took a big step back. Jordan Alvarez has not been good. Hunter Brown has been unbelievable to start this year, but then Framber Valdez hasn't been as good as you would expect. The bullpen has been great, so it's been kind of a mixed bag so far from the Astros. You can definitely see the pieces that would put this team together and be great. You can also see how this team could stumble or continue to be just kind of like hit or miss moving throughout the season. For right now, I have them here at number 13, but we'll have to see where they move moving forward. At number 12, we have the Milwaukee Brewers, who are just the definition of like a good team. They just continually churn out good players. Chad Patrick getting great results. Jose Quintana, not the names you expected to be leading this rotation coming into the year, but here we sit in the beginning of May, and they are some of their better pitchers. Obviously, Freddie Peralta doing his thing. Nick Mears looks untouchable out of the pen. Then you have people like Bryce Terang, who's actually hitting this year. You have Sal Frelick, who's looked great offensively. You have Reese Hoskins, who's done great this year as well. They look like they have found, once again, a great, no, not great, good team that will look to do damage throughout the season. They'll get to the playoffs and they'll kind of probably fizzle out in the wild card or divisional round, but they just look like a solid wild card team like they always do, and they continue to find these results despite not really spending money on this team. It's incredible. I'm going to have them here at 12 as a just solid team. At number 11, we have another team kind of like the Brewers that just continues to put out a good team every year. They are sitting here at 17 and 13. They have a really bad run differential for that record, but I think if you look at how they've done their wins so far this year, it can be expected that they can, you know, kind of maintain that sort of record moving forward. You know, your best players have been Stephen Kwan, Kyle Manzardo, Gabriel Arias, Angel Martinez. Like, these are guys you don't expect to be producing at this level, maybe to this point, especially like the Gabriel Arias's and Angel Martinez of the world. But then you have people like John Kinsey Noel hitting the cover off the baseball, Jose Ramirez sitting there who aren't necessarily performing the best, but they are still winning games. And then you have this bullpen who, aside from Emmanuel Clase, just continues to be fantastic. And then their starting rotation, still putting up decent numbers up to this point in the year. They just look like a solid team that, once again, will be around that kind of wild card range, maybe division winner, and they will look good. And then at number 10, we have the Arizona Diamondbacks, who have looked pretty decent to start the year. They have tapered off a little bit, but you look at this offense, it's been unreal. Corbin Carroll, absolutely fantastic. There's not enough you can say about this guy, but even a guy like Geraldo Perdomo, Pavin Smith, Josh Naylor, even Tim Tawa coming up looking great up to this point in the year. Obviously, Cattell Marte hasn't played that much. Eugenio Suarez has been a little hit or miss. Whenever he hits, he's hitting, but not overall great numbers on the year aside from those 10 homers. And even people like Lourdes Gurriel aren't really hitting up to this point. So there is room for this offense to move even further upwards. Pitching has not been there. Oh my goodness. The best person on their teams in terms of F4 is Eduardo Rodriguez, who has a 6 ERA at the moment. Joby Miller has looked good out of the pen. Same with Jalen Beeks. Brandon Pfaadt's having a great year so far, but just not great pitching up to this point in the year. You're definitely expecting more out of Merrill Kelly. You're expecting more out of Zach Gallen, Corbin Burns. You're expecting more out of these guys, and they just haven't delivered up to this point in the year. At number 9, you had the Philadelphia Phillies, who at and then at number 9, you had the Philadelphia Phillies, who had this been done about a week ago, they probably would have fell out of the top 10 for me, but they've won 4 straight. There's not much more you can say. They had a really poor spell for about a week or two, but as of late, they've been powering back up. They've been playing a lot better. Currently have them here at 9 because they've been playing some good baseball as of late. Kyle Schwarber continues to do Kyle Schwarber things. Trey Turner's been getting better. Bryson Stott's been having a great year. Bryce Harper still putting up great offensive numbers. Like they are just doing what the Phillies do. Jesus Luzardo on the pitching side has been leading this team. He's been absolutely fantastic. Jose Alvarado's looked good out of the pen. They're just looking like the Philadelphia Phillies, and there's not much more you can say to that. They've just been kind of getting out of their funk as of late. I had them here at 9. You would expect them if they continue to play good baseball to move upwards moving forward. And then sitting here at number 8, we have the Seattle Mariners winning 15 of their last 20 games, 8 of their last 10. They're currently on a 4-game winning streak. They've been playing great. Now, their strength of schedule has not been that particularly difficult, but they've been doing so convincingly. Their run differential looks pretty good. They've just looked pretty good up to this point in the year. Obviously, we know the story with this team is that their hitting doesn't really land, but so far it's been doing a lot better. Obviously, we know that Cal Raleigh is just unreal, but even Jorge Polanco has been putting up numbers this year. JP Crawford looks like he's hitting again. Julio Rodriguez has a positive WRC plus, even though he hasn't putting up the greatest numbers. Randy Arozarena looks like he's back. There's been some pieces that have just looked unreal for this team and this offense, and if they can continue to hit like that, this team gets very scary. Have them here at 8, but they definitely have room to punch upwards. And then at number 7, you have the New York Yankees, who coming into the year, they were coming off that World Series appearance, but they looked like a much different team without Juan Soto. You didn't know how the rest of that lineup would hit. So far, they've been hitting. Anthony Volpe has a 125 WRC plus, 173 from Ben Rice, 187 from Trent Grisham, 153 from Paul Goldschmidt. They look unreal on offense. It makes no sense whatsoever. Obviously, they have their days where they just look untouchable on offense. The pitching also hasn't been bad if you take out Devin Williams. Max Fried's looked good. Luke Weaver in the pens look good. Mark Leiter Jr. looks good. Fernando Cruz looks good. Like they just have the pieces that look really good. And so far, the offense has been hitting. Strength of schedule hasn't been the hardest. We have to admit that. And they've been beaten up on some bad teams. I'd love to see how this transfers into games against teams that are playing well. But right now, they've looked great. They're 18-13. Definitely room for them to continue to go upwards. At number 6, we had the Chicago Cubs, who have been playing some unreal baseball to start the year. Now, they've been doing so against the hardest schedule in the MLB as well. You got to consider this team has a considerably positive run differential, and they've been doing so against probably the toughest schedule up to this point. They have only played one series against a below 500 team, and that's only starting now against the Pittsburgh Pirates. So this team has played great baseball to start the year. You're getting excellent contributions from your new guy in Kyle Tucker, but even guys like Seiya Suzuki and Pete Crow Armstrong are just playing unreal baseball, especially from what your expectations were. Then you look at the rotation; it's been solid up to this point. Colin Rea looks good somehow. Matthew Boyd looks good. The bullpen has been a little hit or miss, especially in those wild games you think about against the Dodgers or Diamondbacks. But it's been a really fun ride for the Cubs this year. I need to see them churn out some good quality wins, especially once their schedule eases up a bit. But for right now, I have them at 6, and they definitely could punch higher once they get some easier wins under their belt moving forward. It's a very similar thing for the San Francisco Giants at number 5, who've been playing unreal baseball up to this point. Played 31 games, and 28 of them have been against teams above 500. Jung Hoo Lee looks incredible this year. Mike Yastrzemski's hitting the cover off the baseball. Matt Chapman's putting up some good offensive numbers. Same thing with Tyler Fitzgerald. And then the pitching rotation hasn't been great aside from Logan Webb, who just continues to be incredible. The bullpen just looks incredible, though. Randy Rodriguez, Hayden Birdsong, Ryan Walker, maybe not Ryan Walker, Tyler Rogers, Camilo Duvall, they all look just absolutely untouchable out of the pen. And if they can continue to have a great bullpen, if they can get some starters at the deadline, this team becomes incredibly scary. At number 4, you have the Detroit Tigers, who are proving last year was more than just a fluke season where they got hot. No, they are for real. Zach McKinstry looking great this year, has the best, overall WAR on the team somehow at a 1.4 F4 already, a 149 WRC plus. Spencer Torkelson, 154 WRC plus. Dylan Dingler's doing great things. Javier Baez looks like he's back. What is happening with this team? It seems like everybody is performing well. They've had a decently tough schedule up to this point in the year. They have a excellent run differential. They just look incredible. There's not much to say. You verse teams above 500 and they still have a pretty good record. Under 500, they're just smashing everybody. They just look pretty good and they're just winning the games they're supposed to win, and they're doing pretty good against teams that are, kind of evenly matched. Pitching has been surprisingly good this year as well. They just look incredible. There's not much to say. At number 4, they may not have the superstars that you would love to see, but up to this point, they just have a lot of excellent, good players that just do their job well, and they're getting good pitching. And there's not much more to say. The Tigers are your 4th best team in baseball as of right now. And then at number 3, we have the San Diego Padres, who, much like the Tigers, are getting just some unreal pitching to start the year. It's so hard to score runs against them. And then you have the offense fueled by Fernando Tatis Jr., who looks all the way back to that superstardom we saw before the PED suspension. He just looks incredible. 181 WRC plus. Defense still is pretty solid out there as well. So there's a lot to like with this team. I'd love to see the rest of this lineup kind of come together. But for right now, if that's what's winning you games, that's what's winning you games. And then at number 2, we had the Los Angeles Dodgers, who, kind of like the Phillies earlier, had a really good start to the month. They finished the month pretty well. They had a lull in the middle, but it's the Dodgers. And their ceiling is so much higher than every other team that despite that, they still are tied for the best record in baseball. Pitching unreal. They have like 6 starting pitchers on the IL, and it just hasn't seemed to matter so far. They just look incredible. Their lineup finally coming around. Shohei Ohtani unleashed on the Pirates. As I was watching that series, it was just not even fair. And then the rest of the lineup came with it. Freddie Freeman does incredible things. Obviously, Max Muncy, you would love to see him get going, but it's just a team you can't glaze enough. They're the Dodgers. They spend money. They have a great team. They have an unbeatable team, it feels like at times, and they're just kind of unfair, but they aren't the number 1 team. And that's because it's the New York Mets, who continue to play great baseball. They finished last year unreal. This year, they look even better. The pitching has been incredible so far this year, only giving up 94 runs on the entire season. Offensively, getting fueled a lot by Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, even Juan Soto chipping in there. Maybe not at the level you would expect, but still pretty good. You would expect that a lot of the other names you would love to see come around. But as of right now, it's winning them games. If you don't need to score a lot of runs whenever the rest of the team is just not giving up any. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know where you guys thought I got it right, got it wrong down below in the comments. Let me know your guys' top 10, 20, 30, whatever you guys want to tell me down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching and have a wonderful day.